We proceed with the next speaker for the day, Dr. Dakshayani MR. Dr. Dakshayani MR is serving as a professor in the Department of Prosthodontics, Crown and Bridge, and also as a Deputy Director at JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research. Ma'am completed her graduation and post-graduation from the Elite Government Dental College, Bengaluru, has innumerable publications to her credit. Interesting aspects being her honorary activities in the rehabilitation of cleft lip and palate patients. Ma'am has been the coordinator for all the institutional accreditations so far, former head of the department and vice principal of JSS Dental College. We are pleased to have you on board, Dakshayani ma'am. We have Dr. Indira MD as a reflection panelist for the session. We welcome you, Dakshayani ma'am. We have Dr. Indira MD, pediatric dentist from JSS Dental College and Hospital, as a reflection panelist for this session. Dr. Indira has a vast experience in the field of pediatric dentistry and has taken a unique initiative in the establishment of Baby Oral Health Promotion Clinic in the Department of Pediatrics, JSS Medical College and Hospital. Has various national and international publications to her credit too. Has been a recipient of the Best Paper Award in the year 2020. We're glad to have you with us, Dr. Indira. Formal welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Chanchana.
Dakshayani ma'am has led us by example, I must say, and we are really proud of her with all the interactions that we've had so far. Over to you, Dakshayani ma'am. Waiting to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chanchala. I'll be sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
I hope it's visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Good morning to all the participants, the panelists, and the organizers. And my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Chanchala for introducing me. With pranams to His Holiness, Swamiji, I would like to say a few words on the topic of women in academic leadership. Women leaders in academia are quite many. And there are so many of women leaders around us. However, we need to see how we ourselves, each one of us, can become academic leaders. That is the whole thing about this talk. By doing this, we can be successful ourselves, and in the process, can take our organization also to much higher heights. Before we go into the main topic proper, let's have a little story. Can you name this road in Mysore? I'm sure most of the Mysoreans are very familiar with this road, which is very famous from centuries. Yes, it is Sayaji Rao Road. And who is Sayaji Rao? If we go into the history of this, we come to know that Sayaji Rao is the name of Maharaja Sayaji Rao Gayakwad II of Baroda. Yes, we'll be wondering why Baroda king's name is in Mysore. Well, he was a close friend of Maharaja of Mysore, Chamaraja Odaiyar X. Their friendship was so great that Mysore Maharaja named a road after his friend Sayaji Rao, and Maharaja Sayaji Rao Gayakwad named a road which led to his palace as Chamaraja Road. They were such good friends. Not only that, both of them they were visionary kings in the late 19th century. And it was their conception and their efforts that led to the establishment of University of Mysore in 1916 in the reign of his son, Krishnaraja Odaiyar IV. And the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University was established in Baroda after the Baroda College was established in the year 1949 after independence. And why did we learn about these two institutions? Is to say that it was in this same university which was established in 1949 that Mrs. Hansa Mehta became the Vice Chancellor, and she was, for the first time in India, was a woman who headed a university not confined to educating only women. Isn't that a good inspiration for all of us? Not only was she an educationist, she was a freedom fighter and a women's rights advocate. And she was instrumental in forcing the United Nations to make the opening lines of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights gender neutral. In the first draft of the charter, it read as all men are born free and equal, which she changed it to all human beings are born free and equal. Not only that, she was the lone woman to sit in the committee of the University Education Committee, which was named so in those days, which is now the University Grants Commission in 1948. And she was also instrumental in bringing about the CBSE, which till today it is functioning. Isn't this a great achievement of a woman leader? Now coming to the talk proper. Though we have all these leaders, what does the data show about women leaders? Is there any difference between the data that is there around the world and in India? What are the types of leadership traits and the principles that a women have to go through? Is it the same as that of the men, or is it different for women? Are there any barriers for women leaders around us? Have they broken these barriers? Is there anything called as glass ceiling or glass cliff? And how to overcome these if it is there, and how to move forward? So coming to the statistics component of it, or the data that is available for us, you will see that in India, there are about 981 universities as of the data of last week, as recorded in UGC, of which it includes the state universities, deemed to be universities, central universities, and the private universities. Now, this is the amount of education that is happening in India. However, if we see at the gross enrollment ratio, now what is this gross enrollment ratio? It is nothing but it is the ratio of the number of people who are getting educated to the total number of population. So what is this gross enrollment ratio for higher education? In India, at present, it is about 26.3%. That means to say 26% of the 18 to 23-year age group people in India are getting enrolled to the higher education institutions, which will amount to 37.4 million students. Of these number of students, 48.6% of them are ladies. And the gross enrollment ratio of male and female is 23.3 for male and 26.4 for females. Now that means to say that girls are getting educated. There are a lot number of girls who are getting educated. Also, it is not only in the degree level, even at PhD scholar level, there are ladies getting graduated as PhD scholars. It is seen that in medical sciences, the female students outnumber the men. However, though we have to keep in mind that in the medical sciences, it is about 15.5% of the students who opt to go for PhD. But in the undergraduate level also, the number of girls getting graduated is more than 50%. In MPhil, it is more. However, with all these data, it is seen that the data given by Catalyst report in 2020 says that it is only 20.3% of the women who are working. That means to say, compared to 76% of men who are working, it is only 20.3% of women who are working. And this accounts to only 19.9% of total labor. Now, among this percentage of women who are working, a lot number of them do come to the teaching profession. In the universities, it is seen that many people take up teaching profession as their career. However, when we see at the numbers overall in India, as per the Aisha report 2018-19, we see that there are a lot of tutors, but when it comes to the lecturer position, it drops to about 74 female teachers available for every 100 males. As we go further up in the ladder of positions, it goes to 58 when it comes to associate professors and readers. And when it comes to professors, it comes to 37. Now, why does this happen? That is something for us to introspect and see. One reason could be that there is dropouts in the women force. However, when we go even higher to the professor's level, especially the vice chancellors, there is not much of available data which says what's the exact percentage in India who have become vice chancellors, especially in the education sector. However, there is some data that the leaders in the other sectors, especially companies and firms, it is there where it says that even there it is not very significant. It says about 3.7% and 5.8% of women who go to the top level. Now, if on an average, if we say about even 5 to 6% of the universities are headed by vice chancellors who are women. Now, this is inclusive of the women universities, exclusive women universities, but vice chancellors are also women. Though the percentage-wise it is less, there are quite a few women vice chancellors around us who are great inspiration. For example, we have Professor Najma Akhtar, who is the vice chancellor of Jamia Millia Islamia, the Central University at New Delhi. She's the first vice chancellor in this university, which is about 99 years old. And we have Professor Sunaina Singh, who's the vice chancellor of Nalanda University. We know the importance of Nalanda University, and she is heading that in Rajgir, Bihar. We also have Professor Anu Singh Lata, who heads the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University at New Delhi, which is a public state university. And recently, last year, Professor Sonajya Mills became the Vice Chancellor of Sidho Kano Mormon University in Jharkhand. The others to name are Professor Sangeeta Srivatsa, who's the Vice Chancellor at University of Allahabad. These people who are at that position are a great inspiration for the leaders who want to achieve excellence in your career. Another data that we have to keep in mind is the global gender gap. Now, this data I am presenting here to show that it is not a phenomenon which is occurring only in India. It is all over the globe that we see that there is a gender gap. Though to some extent there can be a gender parity in other social areas, but when it comes to academia also, there is a gender gap. And this ranking is carried out by World Economic Forum. And in the year, this year, March 2020-21, they released the ranking, and India stands at 140th rank out of 158 countries that participated, with a score of 0.625. And this means that there is a gap of 62% for women to see that the gap is closed to become equal to men. And this ranking is 2020-21. And this, when we see this, we have to keep in mind that this is a pandemic year. Especially so when we see the rank change, which was 112 in 2020 has dropped down to 140, which is 28 positions down. However, it is the same trend throughout the globe because of the pandemic, where a lot number of ladies lost their jobs or their economic pay was reduced. And this had indexes that they verify with is economic participation and opportunity, education attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment of the women. And this gap has to be kept in mind when we have to know that there has to be a balance between the men and the women in leadership positions and also in other fields of our life in the world to have a balanced society. Now, with this data in mind, we all know that we have to climb a ladder to reach the top. Now, is it only the women who have to do this? Of course not. Even men are going to be climbing the same ladder. However, you can observe here that when the lady is climbing the ladder, whether it is for her or the man, there is a barb there at the top. We have to keep that in mind, and still knowingly we'll have to move forward. To do that, what are the qualities that are required? As it is, ladies are kind, creative, smart, confident, innovative, determined, and also passionate about certain things. Along with these qualities, it is necessary that you have a proper goal or a vision for you and the organization for you to move higher. You should have a strategy both for yourself as well as the organization. And of course, you need to have good planning and teamwork. Timing is a very important component. Time management, as told by other speakers, Dr. Chandrasekhar yesterday, time management. Another speaker who gave you a very good example is Dr. Usha, where time management can allow you to do what you want. What is your aim? What is your goal? Teamwork is absolutely essential. Decision-making capacity and to be efficient. With these qualities, there are certain leadership types and styles which the literature talks about and defines. However, these are not throughout your career styles. You may have to even mix a few of them. At certain situation, you might have to adapt certain styles. Or you could have a certain style which you follow all the time. Just to name a few of them, and many authors talk about it in different ways. The same sort of leadership trait can be named differently. There are a few of them which I have named here. Transactional leadership will be one where there is a give and take. The leader tells a few things and expects the team members to give the result. This is one trait. Transformational leadership is another way the leaders can function. What happens is that there is a group, and it is going to be very helpful when you have to set new targets, new initiatives. You have your leader, you have your teammates talk to you. You are going to talk what you want. You are going to convince them what the goals are. And you will see that there is a transformation. And this can be applied even in situations where you have reached goal, but you want to change, you have to reach higher goals. Then transformational leadership is going to be helpful. The other sort of leadership is when you see that the leaders are very confident. They tell the teammates what has to be done. They trust them, and then they take them forward and the team forward. A democratic leadership would be one where the leader says that, ask his teammates to give suggestions. Whatever there is suggestions given, he treats them equally and sees that the whole team moves forward. Whereas an autocratic leadership would be one where the leader does and expects his teammates to follow him. The other is the delegative leadership. In this leadership, you are going to tell your team members, do it anyway, what you feel is right. That means you have a lot of trust in your team members. However, here a constructive feedback would be absolutely essential. A bureaucratic leadership style would be one where the leader goes by the rules. But here again, one thing that we have to keep in mind is there is going to be a good organized leadership, but decision making could be slow. A charismatic leadership. This would be one where the leader is going to use his or her charm. He's going to use his charm of persuasion to see that the things are done. Or a coach like leadership, where you have the time and the energy to see that you explain each and every aspect of your plan and you expect your teammates to follow that. As I said, all these leadership traits are common to both men and women. However, certain of these could be more adaptive or more followed by the women, like the democratic leadership or transformational leadership or charismatic leadership is more followed by the women leaders around us. Now, it was Dr. Meenakshi Gandhi and Kakoli ma'am who published an article in 2020, that is recently. And they were as far as the Indian literature goes, this is one article where there is some study done on Indian women leadership in academia. There they talk about experiences, challenges, and strategies by women leaders in higher education. What are the experiences that they talk about? When they talk about these experiences, I would say, or I would call these as internal experiences, or those that is present within you, or where you can change things. Are women made to prove themselves more than that of men, or twice as worthy? Opinions of males are considered sometimes. Is there any lack of gender balance in leadership roles? Is there a promotion policy in your institution which is not transparent? There could be fault finding in women by male seniors. Whereas there are other experiences or challenges which can be organizational or familial. The organizational challenges or the institutional challenges could be that there is an absence of diversity and inclusion policy for leadership roles. There could be a non-commitment to research. When we say research here, it is research with regard to leadership qualities. Lack of skill development programs or policies for the women. This is what they found in their study. And the personal limitations, which, as I said, is the internal one or to the person itself. They could be family responsibilities, especially they could be adolescent children, where the women may have to take a break. There can be lack of networking. The opportunities that are given to a woman to network could be less. Access to leadership development training programs, is it available to you? Research strength, that means how much are you able to research on these qualities? How is your oral communication skills, especially in meetings with higher authorities? Then the social obstacles could be lack of support from the family, complete responsibility of the household chores, negative attitude from the social circle towards leadership roles. These are a few of the things that she has mentioned. And also they give them some strategies and enablers, which I wholeheartedly agree. We can forego, or we can do these activities of leadership if our time management for self-development is planned correctly. And also if your time management is right for your work-life balance. And also you might have to co-opt the right help for the work-life balance. Developing the right network would be another strategy. Being able to speak to the point in a meeting with higher authorities is very important. To do this, it might be necessary for us to be up to date. That means there has to be continuous lifelong learning, be it with regard to the policies about the organization, or be it your own domain, your professional upgrading yourselves. Skills, the soft skills that Dr. Avinash spoke about yesterday. Being up to date is going to be a very important aspect if we have to speak to the point in a meeting with the authorities. There has to be policy support for leadership development. If not, look out for these policy development leadership. And there has to be self-motivation and self-mentorship. In this era of so much of knowledge at our fingertips, we should be able to self-mentor ourselves. And the other thing about the emotional control, where our emotional intelligence plays a big role in extreme situations, for which, again, in this webinar series, we got tips from the day before yesterday's speaker. Some others conceive and see a few more barriers in women's advancement. They talk about unequal opportunities for advancement. They talk about the negative assumptions about their capabilities. This, to some extent, might be true with some ladies. That is to say that, supposing you are called for an interview for one post, we see that men, even if the compatibilities which is required for that post is about 10, even if they have 5, 6, 7, they confidently apply. Whereas women hesitate. Even if they have 8 or 9, they think that they have only 4 or 5, and they wait for the time when it becomes 10. So that will have to be consciously seen that you apply about, especially with your capabilities. Uncertainty. You are uncertain about your own capabilities and the support you might receive. And the other thing is about glass cliffs, which in some institutions might be there, which we will talk about in the latest slides. Another person, that is Doris Rabaz, also said, though this paper was about 10 years old, I just put it where it gives a little more expansion or a little other hurdles that the women might face across the world. One is about glass ceiling, old boy network, where men have different sort of networking, which is going to help them get promotions, which may not be very apt for our institutional culture. Exclusion from informal social gatherings, discrimination, harassment in the workplace. Lack of mentors is there in some countries. And alternative approaches to leadership is one thing which I found important here is, supposing you do not have opportunities to go up the ladder conventionally, looking out for alternative approaches is a very good strategy. Especially women who have leadership qualities can show the talent alternatively, and you have to look out for such opportunities, see for what the challenges are, and convert them into opportunities that would definitely take you a long way. Just a few words about this glass ceiling and glass cliff. Glass ceiling is a word which has been used in women leadership meetings from the last 2 decades. And it is nothing but it is a perceived feeling where they say that there is an invisible barrier to the advancement that women face when they are up for promotion to the highest level of the organization. These words I am introducing here, if many of you all do not know it, it would be helpful for you when you read about these programs. And this glass ceiling can be broken by organizations or institutional level, or even at the level of the nation. How do they do that? They usually try to diversify the occupations for men and women. They fostered greater sharing of family responsibilities. This could be like the family responsibilities is equally shared between the husband and the wives, or even the children. Objective and unbiased recruitment and promotion procedures. Gender-sensitive human resource policies could be the prevention of harassment at workplace. Cultivate and nurture women's entrepreneurial talents. Many people do not come out with their talents openly. That has to be identified and nurtured. Coming to the glass cliff, this has been spoken of in the last 1 or 2 years when it happened to the Yahoo CEO. It says that it is the idea, again, it is just an idea, imaginative idea, that when a company is in trouble, a female leader is put in charge to save it. And unknowingly, if you're not careful of this, you might fall. That is the reason what they talk about. However, if it is so, be aware of it. But that doesn't mean that you should not take up the role. Being self-aware and understand how others perceive you, and a clear view of what your own personal leadership journey is, you can go ahead, even in such situations. However, some might have gone through these conversations around you. Women are natural leaders. I don't think you want that much of responsibility. These are the usual dialogues that you might hear. Or in an interview, they might say, you have a lot of experience, but we are looking out for someone who has more authority. These are the few things that you might have to face. It's all right. Still, these things can happen. Why does these things happen? It's just what we have to retrospect and see, and then try to find solutions for the same. Is it that women have more family responsibilities? Are the roles assigned by the society to men and women stereotyped, and these stereotypes are against women? Is it that the culture itself is masculine? Women do they have less or insufficient amount of managerial experiences? Are there less number of women role models? Is it that the men are not encouraged to take leave for family responsibilities? Here, there was a suggestion which I read and which could be apt is encouraging along with maternity leave, paternity leave, where the father is also aware of the responsibilities of a child. Lack of company equality policies and programs. Lack of leadership training for women. If that increases, will it help? Is it that there is no flexible work solutions? Are there no strategies to retain skilled women in the workforce? Is there an inherent gender bias in the recruitment and the promotion policies? As I said, this could be an unconscious one. It could be in many of the selection committee people. Is the management generally viewed as a man's job? Are gender equality policies in place, however they are not implemented? These are the things which we can question and see that they are taken care of. Why is it that we are talking about women leaders? Is it so essential that women leaders have to be there? Yes, it is required. It is not to say that women are better than men. It is only to say that there is going to be equality and a say and an inclusiveness in the whole system. And in a study done in December 2020, where during crisis, this was published in the Harvard Business Review, where they said that when the men and women leaders during the COVID-19 crisis were assessed for 19 competencies, the women rated more positively on 13 of them. And so they said that women are better leaders in crisis. However, it is seen that women leaders are more persuasive than male counterparts. And sometimes just that sting of rejection could make her say, I'll show your attitude, which can be used to the advantage of the organization. And women leaders demonstrate an inclusive team-building leadership style for problem solving and decision making, which can bring success to the organization. As women leaders, what is it that we can do? What are the principles of women leadership? Acknowledging the trailblazers. There are quite a few women out there who have achieved. So take their examples, learn, and go ahead. Keep achieving. Your lifelong learning is not to be excused. Whether it be in the professional life, whether it is in relation to newer skills that is required in the profession, or being multitasking and doing a lot of activities as you go higher up, as you become seniors, there has to be multitasking. So you have to get yourself ready for that, and you have to keep achieving. And multitasking, when I say, it need not be multitasking only at home. Women are capable of multitasking, even as we say, multitasking out as well as inside. That means doing your job as well as doing your household activities. Multitasking can also be at work, wherein you are very familiar with this multitasking activity of patient care. You have your own research activity that is being done, as well as leading others or administrative activities that you do. Believe in yourself. Believe whatever you can see, you will be able to achieve. That belief should always be there in you. Pass the torch. Take other women along with you so that in the coming future, you will have more number of women going to the top, which is essential for equality and parity. Know yourself. Know what you are capable of. Try to increase your capabilities. Speak out. Your communication skill should become very efficient. It is not only speaking out, it has to be listening and taking appropriate action and decision making. Be present. Your time can be very important. You might have to be present at the right time, at the right place. Be present. Prepare for the future. Anticipate challenges and get ready for them. And lead by example. You have to hone your skills every day and see that whatever you do is par excellence. Then there is no stopping you to go to the top. What is the way forward? It's time for the world to recognize the benefits of women in leadership and commit to placing even more women in positions of power. There is going to be a day when a lot more percentage of women are going to go to the top. So be one. Teach your children. It is not only the girls that you have to teach. You'll also have to teach your boys how to have that equality that will bring about a lot of change. Now, this webinar, I'm sure, is not viewed only by women. There are men out there. The men who are here are an example to say that they advocate gender equity. Engaging all these men to leverage their influence is a very good factor. It is always with all of us that we can go forward. I'm sure that the government is doing its bit in bringing out policies and doing what has to be done at the national level, whether it is in the private sector or in the public sector. There are civil societies around us who are seeing that there is women empowerment. But when we say women empowerment, we are not to forget that men are also there and they also have their equal empowerment to be taken care of. However, with these words, I will just play a
I want to work in the hospital so that I can see you every day and be with you every day. And he said to me, he said, well, why don't you want to be a doctor? And I said, I didn't know girls could be doctors. And he said, you can be anything. You can be anything. But fast forward to when I became a mom, I was having one of those moments when my daughter asked me, Mama, what do you do? I told her what it was like to be a surgeon and how I took care of patients when they had something wrong and they needed some help, and I was able to take them to the operating room and help them and then make sure that they were all right afterwards. And for you parents, you know this moment when your child is transfixed on you and their eyes are just on you. And I can remember to this day those huge eyes of hers with those long lashes. And she says to me, Mama, can boys be doctors too? And I realized that something had happened there from the time that my father had told me that I could be anything, I could do anything, to when my daughter was asking me if boys could be doctors too. Now, the whole point about being an admiral is that there is a certain amount of responsibility that's imparted to you. There's the authority that you're given, and there's an expectation that you will help continue to bring the Navy forward. The job alone is just thrilling, and just being considered to take that position is an extremely high honor and privilege. And in order to take that position, it meant that I would be promoted to Vice Admiral, which is a 3-star admiral. Well, here's the thing, that when it came time for my promotion, I had to special order the bling that I'm currently wearing because they'd never had a female medical 3-star admiral. But see, you guys can do that. All of you can do this. All of you can do anything.
So with that, I would just like to end to say that, yes, each one of us can do it. Yes, I can is what we have to say. And thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you, Dakshayani ma'am. We were always taken over by your motivation, to be very frank. Thank you for empowering all of us. Thank you once again. And we are very glad and delighted to have Dr. Kushalappa, Director Academics, who has joined the session. A hearty welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Chanchala.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for joining. Thank you, sir, for joining. That shows how he empowers us.
Always behind you all.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, I request Dr. Indira to kindly share her inputs on the presentation and as well to moderate.
Thank you, Chanchala. With the blessing of His Holiness, today is indeed a proud privilege for me to be a panelist to Dakshayani Madam, who is my favorite teacher, a motivator since my UG days. She has motivated me in many ways, which is actually a true sign of leadership. She has worked, she has shown her leadership qualities during the ISO first cycle, NAC. She has motivated us to work even beyond our work timing. So that is the true leadership. So indeed today I'm very happy to be a panelist for the ma'am's presentation. Going to her presentation, Women in Academic Leadership. So she started with the presentation showing the first Vice Chancellor of Women Vice Chancellor in the Baroda University, which was established in 1949. And she also told about the different, she also told about the total universities. That is, there are around 981 universities, but however, the gross enrollment ratio is only 26.3%. Then she spoke about the qualities required for a leadership. That is, we have to set proper goal for self and for the self as well as for the organization. Good planning is required. Teamwork, team management, decision-making capacity, and efficiency is required. Then she told about some leadership triads. So she mentioned around 9 triads, that is transitional leadership, transformational leadership, servant leadership, democratic leadership, autocratic leadership, delegative leadership, bureaucratic leadership, charismatic, and coaching leadership. She mentioned an article which is published in Sage 2020. I request all of you go back and read this article. I felt it is very impactful. So she told the strategies which they have mentioned, the authors which they have mentioned, that a women leadership should have a time management for self-development. They should co-opt for the self as well as the work balance, develop a network, able to speak to the point to the higher authorities, seek self-mentorship, and emotional control in extreme situation is very important. Then she spoke about the barriers for the women leadership or women's advancement in the leadership. They are glass ceiling, unequal opportunities, exclusion from the decision-making, discrimination, sexual harassment, etc. She told 2 important things, that is about the glass ceiling and glass cliff. Glass ceiling is the invisible barrier to the advancement of a woman who often face that when they are up for the promotion. And glass cliff is the idea that whenever the company is in a trouble, they put the women in front to lead the show. Later, the ma'am also told about the women leadership principles. What are the principles that a woman should have? One is the acknowledgement. Next is the keep achieving, believe in yourself, know yourself, speak out, listen patiently, be present, prepare for the future, and multitasking. And last is the lead by example, how ma'am has led all of us as an example. She is a living example how to be a women leadership. The last what ma'am told was like, we have to take women along with us. Most of the time, it is the women who will be fighting with each other. So that should not be the scenario. Let us hold hands with each other and go forward. So with this, all of the women, we have the capability to do anything and everything. We have to be together. Thank you.
Thank you, Indira. Well, nicely put across. Are there any questions? I don't see any questions as such. Lots of congratulations,
lots of appreciation.
And appreciation to Dakshayani ma'am. So what I feel probably on a lighter note is that the ladies have been pretty much motivated and already in the process of breaking the glass ceiling is what I feel personally. So moving on with this, may I request Dakshayani ma'am to kindly accept a token of appreciation in the form of a certificate.
I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be a part of y'all, and I'm always a part of you at this program, and being able to talk to all of you all and motivate you. I'm blessed. Thank you. Thank you, Shalapa sir, for being here for my session.
And to our panelists, Dr. Indira, kindly accept a token of appreciation and gratitude.
Thank you, Dr. Chanchala. I thank Ashwini ma'am for giving an opportunity to be a panelist in this brainstorming webinar series. Thank you.
Thank you once again from the team of Webinar Series Excellence Series, Professional Excellence. On behalf of them, thank you once again, Dr. Dakshayani MD and Dr. Indira.
Thank you.